In a recent video, we discussed what the Nine actually are and the plans they have to alter the universe in their favor. The space dust dark matter consciousness that is the Nine wishes to become physical, to evolve their form, and they believe the Traveler's Light can help them do so. Now, among all the Nine information that dropped within Season of the Drifter, we also learned that there are two top secret factions within the Nine. There are 4 of them who want to experiment with all this dark matter and sort of create a black hole, and then there are the other 5 who sort of wish to learn the ways of the light and become physical. But if these 5 actually manage to do so, actually manage to become physical, how will they enter our realm? Today we are going to discuss the abandoned gate inside a dormant space station that may lead us straight to the cosmic beings themselves. My name's Evade and welcome to the channel.
He will turn his eyes to Earth, and only a true weapon of the light can stop his wrath.
Alright Guardians, welcome back, hope you're having an amazing day, and let's jump right into this lore. Now if you would like to learn the specifics on the Dust lore book, this details everything that the Nine are, and that video is available right here on my channel. So let's first begin by discussing this abandoned haunted space station that was in possession of Crota, and then after the Hive, the Nine. So we first got word of this abandoned haunted space station back in Destiny 1 from Ghost Fragment Dead Orbit. Here's what that card said. Lo, hello? Are you, please let me be alive. Wake up, little ghost, wake up. Just give me some sign that you're listening. Alright, I know you're listening. Why would you be out here if you weren't here to... It's a miracle I found you out here, on this thing. I didn't know the Traveler sent his ghost out this far from home. Poor little lost thing, please wake up. I am in a rock of dead orbit. I'm the last of the crew of the Sophia, and this place is... It doesn't have a name. We called it A-113. How long have you been here, little ghost, and why did you come? Listen, we came here on behalf of the fleet. We were scavengers. 61 days ago, a dead orbit scout detected an unknown presence in stationary orbit around Ceres. 113 West looked Golden Age by the signatures, human, a small space station, and no prior records. I suppose we should have disclosed it to the tower, but we didn't. I didn't. That was my call. We wanted it for ourselves, whatever it was, for the fleet. If we told the tower, maybe they would have sent a guardian out of our making instead. Doesn't matter now, does it, little one? If I ramble, it's because I haven't slept in 7 days. 7.5 days ago, that was when the Sophia dropped into the belt. They saw us at once. We dropped and the alarms went off, and that was the end right then, but they let us go on for another 7.5 days, didn't they? The alarms, hostile scan detected, an awoken ship had us in their sights just a couple 100 kilometers away. Like it had been waiting for us. It could have just wiped us out of space right there, but instead it crippled our engines and our comms, and then for days it played us like a cat. We limped halfway around the belt and it was always there. We decided to abandon the Sophia 1.5 days ago. We jumped ship for A-113. I don't know what else to call it. I don't know what it was built for. There are these things aboard like keyholes. The rangefinders say they can go on for thousands of kilometers. The others went inside and found, well, some of them are still screaming about the eye, and the other voices that come back are more terrible. There is salvage here, but it'll never come home. None of it. None of it except maybe you, little ghost. Wake up, go home, tell them to strike A-113 from the records. Tell them to forget the Sophia and their mission, and her crew. And that's the end of the record. So this is pretty crazy. This is a member from Dead Orbit who is aboard the space station and finds one of these ghosts. So the Iraq tells us a bunch of things. Basically, they went towards the space station. They were kind of, floating around it in the belt for a couple of days, and this awoken ship was just sort of watching them. It didn't take them out. It was just playing with them. And my guess is they wanted to see what was going to happen because they haven't been on the station either. So the crew of the Sophia here eventually boarded A-113 as they called it, and found some pretty crazy stuff inside, things like giant keyholes to other dimensions, and giant gates which would lead them to who knows where. Now, of course, this turnout wasn't good for them, as we see they're screaming about their eyes, and the other voices that came back were more terrible, so pretty much all of them went insane or either died aboard this space station. Now, next within Season of the Drifter, we got this card titled Cocytus. Hopefully I said that correctly. It's either that or Cocytus, I have no idea, but this is the actual name of this haunted space station that was referred to as A-113. Now I'm going to read this card in a second, but it gives us even more information, things like that this was formerly controlled by Crota's forces, and eventually was passed over to forces of the Nine. So let's read it and then we'll discuss afterwards. Sensitive. Contents below sniffed from encrypted Reef datacoms. Sensitive. We are maintaining our containment posture at Cocytus. I assess no immediate danger to the system, and we have enough firepower to destroy the station and its mechanisms remotely if the on-site warheads fail. The station remains in a stable heliocentric orbit where it was parked after the destruction of Ceres. I do not ask confirmation of these theories, and in fact I beg you not to address them, but I have reviewed the site records, and the fate of the Sophia's crew after they were herded to Cocytus stinks of hive madness. The Cocytus aperture must, at that time, have opened into a hive manifold associated with Crota. Whatever their original purpose, when Crota established his presence in the system, they became conduits into hell, and the Sophia's crew's ugly end proved it. Whoever drove the Sophia to its doom then installed the Cocytus instruments around the original Golden Age facility to study Crota's manifold. 3. Crota is dead. His hold on these gates has passed. Now, something else is trying to pass through into our world, but it is so alien and its ending so bafflingly malformed that I hear this can only end in madness. 4. The first visitors to the third gate at event time 000 were simple hydrogen atoms. Over the course of 72 hours, the emissions developed from diatomic hydrogen to nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, water, and simple organic molecules. At the 80-hour mark, we received our first macroscopic visitor, a pellet of thick black hydrocarbon tar. Until 823415, the gate vomited tar containing increasingly complex monomers and polymers. The visitors then began to assume geometric form, a hail of cubes and hexagons, each built from molecular crystal of the same form as the whole. A series of fractal shapes then shattered under the internal flaws, several capsules or membranes of increasingly complex structure containing water or oil. These may have been cellular precursors. At 524:03:11, a living organism appeared. Death was immediate. Remote dissection describes a spherical body, radius approximately 1 meter, surfaced in thick hydrocarbon tar. Deep, evenly spaced throats converged in a central cavity perhaps intended to serve as a lung or stomach. The body exhibited undifferentiated tissue of primitive plant-like cells, capable of spasming to pump air or fluid in and out of the throats. Without enzymes to catalyze metabolism or internal structure to dispose of the waste, the organism could not survive. Cell death occurred almost instantaneously throughout the mass. There were no provisions for self-repair or reproduction. At 6:90:29:54, the gate emitted a tubular organism. For 90 seconds, the organism moved across the gate chamber by contracting and expanding, then expired. Remote dissection describes a 2-meter-long body with a spinal cavity full of energy-rich carbohydrate fluid. The organism's contractions forces fluid through a capillary network where simple cells catabolize carbohydrates into energy to power further contractions. The buildup of heat and waste quickly denatured the enzymes required for metabolism, and the organism died. There were no provisions for self-repair or reproduction. The gate has remained inactive since, barring short emissions of molecules which may be experimental proteins. Remote drones have registered similar ambient molecules within the Hellmouth on Luna, though we have been unable to identify their source. We will maintain the quarantine until otherwise instructed. The overwhelming impression I have is one of learning, of increasing sophistication in the synthesis and arrangement of matter. The atoms in these structures were isotopically pure and impossible to date, but I have the uncomfortable sense that even they were freshly made. And lastly, 9. Probes and instruments dispatched through the gate do not return. Annihilation is apparently immediate and so total that it seems to result from a fundamental failure of the ability to exist rather than any weapon or countermeasure. Yet, something does exist on the far side, and it is trying to learn the rules of our world from the very first principles. I do not eagerly anticipate its next creation. So I know that was a long card with a bunch of science nonsense thrown in there, but it is very interesting and does involve this whole space station Cocytus. Now I'm not going to read this next card in full, just a couple sentences to sort of wrap this all up, but in the card The Gate, which comes from the Dust lore book that explains everything about the Nine and what they are, this Cryptarch Lavinia finds herself on the ship and decides to go through this portal and experiences some pretty crazy stuff, but here's what she had to say before that incident. Lavinia swears and beats her suited fist against her helmet. She's trapped in Cocytus. The last time the Awoken trapped anyone here, those poor souls went utterly insane. The doomed crew of the dead orbit scout ship the Sophia called this place A-113, an innocent catalog number. They had no idea that the gates aboard, once a Golden Age experiment, had been captured by the Hive deity Crota. Those gates consumed them all. Now Crota is gone, and Lavinia has gambled everything that the portals have fallen into other hands. So that is definitely pretty cool. We got word of this way back in Destiny 1's original release, this A-113 as Dead Orbit referred to it as, and it reemerges within Season of the Drifter as this abandoned space station that was once held by Crota and his forces, these gates, and once they perished, the Nine sort of took over these gates, trying to assume physical bodies to enter our own reality. So in summary, this was a Golden Age space station that was in orbit around Ceres or above it, and was eventually abandoned. The Awoken decided to pull this thing into heliocentric orbit and sort of watch over it, plant these warheads inside in case anything went bad, and just use it as sort of a little experiment. One day, the dead orbit crew on the Sophia kind of got around this area, they boarded the ship, things went crazy, they went insane, they all died, blah blah blah, and then thereafter that, Crota's forces fell and the Nine took over the gate for their own agenda. But Guardians, if you'd like to see more videos just like this one talking about the mysteries of the Destiny universe, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching. My name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.